and they're the only ones flying now, so we take advantage of them. Those who sow will reap. Those who sow will reap in joy, okay? So here's the story. As you know, we do a service every year in Florida. 2 years ago, I spoke at that service, and by the way, this is not a second sermon. Well, maybe. No, it is not. It's really an announcement. So I gave a sermon very similar to the one you heard, which was magnificently delivered this evening, and I can tell you, having been to Israel 3 times in this past year, I can understand exactly what Rabbi Josh was speaking about. But I gave a sermon celebrating that I was going to be 80 years old, which I've already arrived at, and I know I look at least 85, so don't say anything. And I talked about the fact that last year I was in Israel 3 times on support missions, meeting with hostage families, visiting the places where unspeakable acts of terror. And I indicated that I'm looking forward to my next trip to Israel. Next trip with a group of our temple community to explore the land, not in the way we've done all the missions that you've heard described, but actually to see Israel the way I had seen Israel with groups of people in the past. And as I was typing this sentence, I couldn't help but write this next sentence. How many of you, and I'm speaking, remember, to a group much older than the people in the sanctuary today? Well, maybe. If we went at how many of you, I asked, if we went at a slower pace and promised that we would never skip a bathroom, are ready to visit Israel with an 80-year-old rabbi and his much younger wife, bringing with us a cardiologist, internist, ophthalmologist, pulmonologist, urologist, physical therapist, and of course an orthopedic surgeon, plus 6 nurses. And then I added the line, okay, optimism transformed to delusion. And then for some very bizarre reason, I said, okay, I'm looking at 500-600 people out there, and I said, how many of you would be interested in joining this kind of trip? And I can tell you, at least, Rabbi Yedwab was there, at least a third of the people raised their hands instantly. So the 2 of us got together, and we announced, just send us your names, and we're going to see what happens. At this point, we have over 50 people who've sent the names to come on a trip, which is now scheduled to leave in November. You'll be at home, plenty of time to go to Thanksgiving dinners and actually prepare Thanksgiving dinners. Who are we inviting? We're inviting the senior world. People my age, people who never dreamed that they're ever going to experience Israel, but not simply to see the Israel that I've described and Josh so beautifully described this evening, but to go and visit, spend time in Tel Aviv, spend time in Jerusalem, certainly to go south, but also to go north. And I have high hopes that we'll have enough people that the small ashes will also be with us. So we're going, and I see Steve Ingber. By the way, Steve Ingber is here, and what a great sermon that was for Steve, who's the CEO of our federation. Thank you for everything you do, and he's also a member of our congregation. But the point is, I was sitting next to Sarah, and I said, Sarah doesn't even know about the trip yet. How can I sit next to Sarah and not let her know about the trip? So I said, Sarah, I'm going to tell you about a trip you have to go on. So if you have any interest, because it's on when you respond and when we have your names, and I said we have 50 people, we may have to have a super mission, as we did in the past, coming from a miracle mission. Feel free to contact my assistant, Kim. Call, leave your name, and if you leave your name, it doesn't mean anything other than you're interested in getting information. The trip was not put together yet, but it is in the process. By next week, we'll have real information to share with people. So I just wonder, how many of you in the generation that I'm speaking of would like to be on that kind of a trip? Raise your hands. Get your names in. Sarah, thank you. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. We're going to go at a slower pace, and I promise we will stop at every bathroom on the way. Love you guys. And isn't it nice to see all the old guys together? The women aren't here tonight. The old guys are still in business. And I made it up to the top of the bima. It's so amazing.